we are on the fourth day of the Sam Bankman-Fried trial. New revelations are emerging about FTX from witness testimony given in the criminal trial. Joining us now to discuss is CoinDesk's global policy and regulation managing editor, Nick Day, who's also the editor of CoinDesk's State of Crypto newsletter. Good morning, Nick.
Hey, good morning.
Not only are you our regulation reporter and editor, but you are an amateur sketch artist. And it has been just such a delight seeing your sketches come out of the courtroom. So thank you for those, Nick.
I feel like I'm there.
One day I'll learn how to draw mounts.
I think by the end of this trial, you might be able to switch careers if you like.
It's like the back of those matchbox, the matchbooks. It's like, can you draw Flippy? It's like, okay.
All right, let's talk about what's been going on inside of the courtroom, Nick. Of course, no cameras are allowed, no phones, so we really have to rely on people like you who are inside the courtroom. Talk to us about what's been happening, and more notably, I've seen some people tweet that some of the jurors are falling asleep. Is that true?
So it looks like one alternate juror yesterday was falling asleep or dozing off at least for part of the early testimony on yesterday specifically. So. It's not that we've seen this consistently or anything like that yet. It's that, it's a case that starts at 9:30 and continues on through the day. And it began, pretty much 20, 30 minutes or so after the jury was selected. So a lot of folks kind of just really yanked into this. It's also worth noting that, again, we have 6 alternate jurors as well as the 12 actual jurors. The alternates are not going to really be involved in any of the decision making unless one of the primary jurors is, unfortunately, unable to complete the trial for whatever reason. So it is true, but I think there's a little bit of
how much of the charges were explained to the jury? Do they understand what's at stake or what they should be looking for?
So, so far we are, this is day 3 of testimony. Gary Wang, the former FTX CEO and co-founder, is going to take the stand again, in about 25 minutes or so. What's really interesting is, so the DOJ has, begun its case. It's begun presenting its case. Over the course of the 3 days, they've been really easing the jury into, I would say all of what you could describe as a more complicated concept. They haven't really gotten into, too deeply into, the statutory requirements for fraud or, conspiracy. They haven't gotten too deeply into issues like, how do cryptocurrencies actually work or how do exchanges actually work? The first witness was, just a customer whose job was to say, I invest in blockchains, which are just I invest in cryptocurrencies, which use blockchains, and cryptocurrencies are just kind of, thing. And I lost $100,000. The second witness was a former, college friend and roommate and employee at FTX and Bankman-Fried. And his job was to just kind of build a little bit upon that. The next witness was Paradise Matt Long. He built a little bit upon that. The DOJ is really kind of, easing the jury into the actual, the concepts and issues at stake here. You're starting with, here are people who lost money. Here are people who were betrayed, people who believed in Bankman-Fried or FTX and were let down by what happened last November. So,
Nick, what's Sam's reaction been like hearing these stories retold in the courtroom?
He's been really glued to a laptop. He has access to an air-gapped laptop in the courtroom. And he's been working on it, typing up what appears to be a doc or Excel sheet or something of that sort. Presumably, it's defense material, things that his lawyers can ask or, things that his lawyers can bring up later to try and refute some of the allegations or statements being made by the witnesses so far. So, he's been there. He's been present. He's been, just really focused on working on whatever it is he's working on.
And one of those witnesses, Gary Wang, he testified against, as you said, he is a former roommate, I believe, of Sam Bankman-Fried. He's coming back again today. What happened yesterday? Why are they bringing him back?
So Gary is, I think, the first, we can say heavy hitter witness, right? All the witnesses so far have talked about and around what happened with FTX last November and how things fell apart. But Gary Wang is he's an individual who built a lot of the code that FTX and Alameda relied on. And I think what the prosecutors are going to want to get into is just how exactly was it possible on a technical level that Alameda was able to borrow funds from FTX customers, and from FTX, how did they have this as Wong put it, this unlimited line of credit, or a large line of credit rather, is what he said. And more importantly, did Bankman-Fried know and sign off on this or not? And it is worth noting here that Wong he pleaded guilty to these charges of wire fraud and other frauds as either at the end of December or beginning of January. So he is testifying, and he is certainly testifying in the hopes of a lighter recommended sentence from DOJ afterward. But he is also a very intimate part of the company that fell apart. So he does have.
And he said that he was taking out. There were loans taken out in his name that were actually for FTX or Alameda. Which was it that he himself took about? It was $1 million he took for himself as a loan, as a personal loan. But then there were a lot more loans taken out in his name, but it didn't go to him, or so he's alleging. Correct?
Right. And again, these are just kind of the allegations that the DOJ is going to want to hone in on and say, well, did Bankman-Fried sign off on this? And because if so, I think this is the part where they're going to start saying like, okay, well, that is, wrong.
Nick, we've asked you about the jurors. We've asked you about Sam. Judge Kaplan has had quite a time with both the defense and the prosecution leading up to the trial. Of course, trying to get Sam out of jail, trying to get him in jail. Now we're finally at the trial. What's Judge Kaplan's demeanor like? Some of the chatter I've heard online is he's kind of been a little lighthearted and cracking some jokes throughout.
Yeah, he's definitely had a few jokes throughout certainly the hearings leading up to the trial. And a few jokes, at the beginning of the trial. He definitely seems focused on trying to, make sure this is an efficient trial process. We reported this morning and yesterday that he's seemingly appearing to lose patience with the defense a little bit. Sustaining objections before they're even made. Telling the defense attorneys to move on if they're just repeating a point. Yesterday, right before lunch, he sent the jury out and then admonished basically one of the defense attorneys for repeating the same lines of questioning that were already, completed by the prosecution on one of the witnesses. So he definitely seems focused on trying to get this, make sure this thing happens and doesn't, in his words, doesn't set a record for the longest trial. But at the same time, he does have this kind of, just a dry sense of humor that, intentional or not, this is where maybe we can talk a little bit about the logistics of covering this case, but at least in the overflow room where I've been for most of the trial, every time he sustains an objection or before it, even is made, it's kind of becoming this routine, this predictable routine that, just you hear laughter in the gallery because of it.
All right, Nick, we are going to have to leave it there, but we look forward to hearing more from you on Monday. Good luck in court today.
Thank you.
All right, that was CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day. And don't forget to sign up for the new SBF trial newsletter that will take you inside the courtroom.